What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the animation season of decision for anything and everything animation. Welcome back to Fans in February 2. Welcome to Identity Crisis. After the giant behemoth that was Rainstorm, now we're back to a normal 20-minute episode. And this one is really good, but not great. There are a few nitpicks and flaws I do have with this episode, and I'll explain them as we go along. But this is still a really good episode, but unfortunately, it's not all that great. So, yep, let's start right away with our plot summary, and then we'll go straight to the full-on synopsis. Danny is sick and tired of his human life messing with his ghost life and vice versa, so he splits himself into two using the Fenton Ghost Catcher, his ghost self to handle his superheroic duties with no distractions, while his human self goofs off to enjoy a ghost-free weekend with no responsibilities. However, the two must find a way to work together when Technus, yes, Technus, this is the episode where he actually returns, he was not in Rainstorm to my recollection, comes to cause trouble. Alright, now for the synopsis. It is not as long and ginormous as Rainstorm, but it's still pretty lengthy, so let's just run through it together step by step, line by line. After checking the files to make sure all the ghosts they caught are indeed caught, the trio starts their weekend of fun. The hard drive is full though, so Danny takes one of his old copies of the Doomed video game to the trash can. Tucker tries to warn him that Technus is still trapped inside that game, but it is too late as the game is now deleted and Technus is now free from his prison, only to be stuck in the computer. Because, of course. He possesses it and wraps Tucker and Sam with the wires inside, sending a laser beam towards them from the computer webcam. Danny, using the Fenton Ghost Catcher, separates Technus from the computer and fights him. Danny tries to duplicate himself only to create a distractingly mutated version of himself, because he hasn't gotten the handle of it without the ectoskeleton. And yeah, when he tries to split himself, it's some pretty freaky looking imagery. Like, you think SpongeBob's face freeze is creepy with the faces? Wait till you see Danny's face in this episode when he tries to split in two. Like, it is. I'm not even going to show it on screen because it gives me the creeps. It is a freaky, freaky image. Sam and Tucker manage to leap out of the way from the laser beam, pulling the computer's plug along the way. Technus takes this time to escape into Tucker's PDA. Danny and Sam impatiently wait for Tucker to arrive later that day. He comes in late, explaining his PDA is acting wonky, unaware that Technus is inside of it, messing with all the internals and stuff. Fearing they're gonna miss the movie, Danny gets Jack to drive them in the Fenton RV by telling him a ghost is inside the movie theater because Jack's dangerous driving is the fastest way to get there. There's that teen angst again. Technus downloads himself to the RV from Tucker's PDA, manipulating the vehicle to his own needs. Jack pushes the eject button, setting the four of them free. Danny then goes and fights the new Technus 2.0, who has completely taken over the Fenton RV, and a TV, and an appliance store. He easily defeats Danny and flies off. Back in his room, Danny expresses his desire to have a fun ghost-free weekend, but knows he has to track down Technus. To solve his problem, he uses the Fenton Ghost Catcher to split his human half and his ghost half. Danny's ghost self is now Super Danny, and has no sense of distraction, while Danny's human self is Fun Danny and has no sense of responsibility. Super Danny is seen in the news by Jack, Maddie, and Jazz briefly before Fun Danny walks in on the Fenton household, confusing Jazz. Seeing Danny not care about ghosts, Jack promptly follows his son to get him interested. That classic Danny Phantom humor. And it's also really cool to see two different versions of this one character. Like, Fun Danny is like your laid-back surfer bro kind of guy, and then Super Danny is like those cheesy 60s TV shows. You know, the ones I'm talking about. Wonder Woman, Batman, the super cheesy, goofy Spider-Man live-action show that lasted for 2 episodes. It is cheesy, it is goofy, it is campy, but it is all kinds of fun. Like, you can hear how much fun David Kaufman is having in the vocal booth as he's doing these voices. Because he gets to act as a goofy, corny superhero and also a laid back, no F's given surfer dude. And both are great performances that show off not only David Kaufman's excellent range as a voice actor, but also just these two different sides of Danny's personality. And seeing them split into two different people and the interactions they have back and forth is really funny. So, yeah. Pretty funny episode. At an amusement park at the pier, Fun Danny, Sam, and Tucker goof off some more until they witness Super Danny fighting Technus, who's been recharging all night. Jack then arrives and takes Danny inside the Spectre speeder, trying to get Fun Danny to shoot Super Danny. Fun Danny intentionally misses, accidentally tilts the vehicle, causing him to fall out, where he's rescued by Super Danny. Technus now has a ghost shield around him, so Super Danny is unable to get through, sends Fun Danny inside Technus to drain his powers while Super Danny distracts him. Then they both push him into the water. Seeing Fun Danny lacking responsibilities, Super Danny attempts to fuse back together with him, but only manages to overshadow him long enough to return home, where Fun Danny fights off his effect and forces the ghost counterpart out of his body. Tucker and Sam decide another trip through the ghost catcher will pull them together, but it only makes the two look identical since eye colors, further frightening Jazz when she sees two Dannys. Jack enters the room, causing Tucker to hide one of the Dannys, Super Danny. Once inside, Jack orders Fun Danny to take the ghost catcher downstairs. After he and Jack leave, Super Danny leaves from his hiding spot in his closet to meet his mom, who tells him to ease on Jazz, who is acting scared. Like, it's all kinds of confusion, and it's hilarious. A wave of confusion between the two Dannys and their parents occur when the doorbell rings. Both parents rush over to it, where a cop returns their water-soaked RV. They take the RV's data recorder to showcase how Technus took over the vehicle. Both Dannys warn him to not plug it in, but they are too late as they do so, releasing Technus again and allowing him to take over the entire house. Yeah, that's a big yikes. He then shouts out his plan to use the house to drain all of the power from the city and then the world before nervously saying, "Nobody heard that, right?" Both Dannys go ghost, while Super Danny deals with saving the family and friends. Fun Danny attempts to handle Technus. However, both of them only have half of their powers. Fun Danny can shoot ghost rays and fly, while Super Danny can turn intangible and overshadow. After freeing his friends and family, Super Danny escapes with them until both parents cry out, wondering where Danny is. They are briefly distracted by Fun Danny long enough for Super Danny to transform back into his human form to ease his folks' worries. However, Jazz is still trapped inside the house, so Jack and Maddie head back in. Technus then gets giant pipes from beneath the ground, connects them to the Fenton household, and uses them as legs to move towards the city. Super creative design. Both Dannys work together to fend off Technus, while Tucker and Sam return with the Fenton ghost catcher, again separating Technus from his machinery, revealing the new Technus 2.0 in person, and causing the house to stop moving. Both Dannys battle Technus, while at the same time merging back together into one, when he slips through the ghost catcher again, but this time backwards. Technus then starts shouting out his plans again like his old self, before Danny grabs him and captures him with the Fenton thermos for the second time. Tucker wonders how the merge happened, and when they were separated before, then notices that one side is labeled separate while the other is labeled merge. Yeah, that's a bit of a cheap final act plot thing, but I'll let it slide. Danny apologizes for the lack of a fun weekend to his friends, who both reveal they did have a good time, stating they are his friends whether they are kicking back or kicking butt. The trio are reunited with Danny's parents and Jazz, who is relieved that she did not go nuts seeing two Dannys. They all gather around the edge of the rooftop, gazing at the beautiful view before them, as now the house has ended up on a beach. And that's the entire plot of Identity Crisis. It is a cheesy, goofy, corny, silly, funny, but also action-packed, really surprisingly in-depth and very entertaining episode of this great, great show. Like, seriously, We don't get shows like this anymore, unfortunately, and it's a huge bummer because shows like this are why I got into animation to begin with. And even now, this episode's still really, really good. I just can't call it great because the plot has some issues. The third act reveal is more of a MacGuffin more than anything. And, I think they spend just a little too much time emphasizing how different Super Danny and Fun Danny are. Like, we get it, they're different. We can tell that from their personality and the little scenes that we get them, not to mention their appearances, as Super Danny now wears a cape to go with his costume, which, I mean, I wish he kind of kept, but at the same time, that would have been cliche, so it's just a funny little one-off thing. But this is still a really good, really fun, and very entertaining episode, but it definitely does feel more like filler. It's a nice, in-depth look at Danny's character, seeing how the two different sides of him, operate. But then at the same time, the pace just moves too fast. It doesn't really give too much time for scenes to fully develop before moving on to the next scene, which I get it. It's the same snappy pacing we've seen throughout the entire show. I get that. But here, I don't think that snappy, fast pacing really works all that well. I mean, it's not like Pirate Radio where it's like, it's not a good episode until the final 10 minutes. No. This is a really good, enjoyable episode all throughout. It just has some issues that are able to keep me from calling it great. This is still a really good, really fun episode, though, so don't get it twisted. This is still an episode worth watching when you have the time. Final verdict for Identity Crisis is going to be an easy 7 out of 10. Check this one out if you haven't already. It is definitely one of the funniest of the season, and it's a really enjoyable but not very memorable episode of the show, unfortunately. Well, that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to see more videos like this every single day, or almost every single day. And stay tuned because we still have a long way to go with our Danny Phantom Marathon. And I'll see you guys next time when we tackle the Fenton Menace. Until then, have a great day. I'll see you next time. I'm going Ghost!